All right, we're good.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 13th Farmington School Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Anyone here for public participation? Moving on to new business, affinity lighting proposal.
For the pleasure of the board, Mac and I have been looking at the infrastructure of our schools, and I know that the Siemens plan was brought before you previously, and from that, we've been doing some research, and we're looking at maybe a piecemeal approach to addressing some of the issues that the schools are facing, with the understanding, especially for you folks at home, with the understanding that the lifespan, a lot of what makes the internal workings of our buildings function have either reached or exceeded their lifespan. And I'm not saying that to panic the community. I'm not. What I'm doing instead is suggesting that rather than wait for a problem to happen, we've decided to take a proactive approach and address these things a little at a time. And I'm going to let Mac, our business administrator, speak to the gentleman who's here tonight and the purpose of the proposal that he has.
Just a little background. Affinity Lighting is a company that works with school districts, municipalities, and I guess other organizations as needed to install cost-effective and budget-friendly lighting projects. And it's something that they make actually all in-house too. So very unique company. And Larry was the one who brought the proposal to us. And he's been monitoring some different issues around your buildings regarding lighting, both in interior lighting and exterior lighting. And we've come up with a comprehensive plan that will not impact your budget, but will allow us to proceed with this project and kind of prep the school for the next 30 years. But I'll let Affinity speak to that. So tonight we have Steve here from Affinity, and he offered to come and talk to the board and just go over the proposal and answer any questions, concerns. And both Larry and myself are here as well. And just for the board's knowledge, I've actually gone through an installation with Affinity Lighting myself. So.
Here,
Yes, please.
Yeah, wherever.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me here. The last time I was here actually was during COVID, when we had done the initial audits for the buildings. My name is Steve Lieber. I'm the president and the founder of Affinity LED Lighting. We're based in Dover, New Hampshire. What makes us unique, as Mackenzie had talked about, was that we are not only complete turnkey service working with municipalities throughout northern New England, but we actually produce all the lighting. We build it all right in our factory in the Washington Street Mill in Dover, New Hampshire. We have an assembly team of U.S. veterans. You, in the town of Farmington, you've already enjoyed some of the lighting that we've done already, because we've done Old Town Hall, New Town Hall, Senior Center, and your street lights as well. So we've worked with, our portfolio includes over 100 municipalities that we've worked with for municipal buildings, school districts, and street lighting, all of which is built in Dover. We've put together a program for you. We've audited all the buildings. We did that a couple years ago, and since that time, we did some updates to the products. So we've updated our energy models. We've updated all the details of your billing. In short, the project is a budget neutral project in that there's so much savings coming from it. I think when we originally came to you, we were looking at rates 2 years ago. We were looking at in the range of about $60,000 a year in savings. That savings is now $83,000 a year, almost $84,000 a year. And with that savings, you'll actually pay for the project with a municipal lease purchase, which allows the governing board of the school district to actually make those decisions. We have worked together. We just completed the Milton School District, where we installed, fairly comprehensive, pretty much everything that lights gets changed in the school district as part of our program. We look at, low use areas, high use areas. The big benefit of our lighting is that unlike most lighting companies out there, we spend a lot of time on R&D, and as a small company, we can make changes as technology improves, because it's easy for our team to say, let's implement it. Because the efficiency of our lighting, you're expected to get somewhere between 15 and 20% more than a typical lighting program would do. So when we, put ourselves up against other lighting companies, the high level of efficiency, and some of those details are in your proposal, makes a big difference. So the total cost of the project is $669,000. We've estimated that Eversource will support $136,000. We're an Eversource partner, so we filled out the expedited workbooks on the new energy models. So we already have those estimates, and should you decide to go forward, we'll turn those in, formally, and get those executed and get those monies put aside. Obviously, that's very important money for you. So the project net is about $533,000. At almost $84,000 a year, it's about 6.3 years to pay it back. So this is a project that not only will pay you back and pay for itself as a budget neutral project, and you'll do that by holding your budget, your electrical budgets the way they stand now. There'll be accruals at the end of the year of savings that, with those accruals, you'll use that money to pay for the municipal lease purchase. The cost of money is paid for by the project itself. We've put together cumulative returns on investment, cumulative savings. Obviously, the savings, come immediately at $83,000 a year. And, depending on how you determine, we've provided Mackenzie a couple of options. One is by which, with the municipal lease purchase, one is which that you float the rebate. In other words, as schools close, we turn in the paperwork, the rebate money comes in, and you don't use that in your lease purchase. And the other one is that you take the full maximum and then pay off the rebates. When they come in, they go right back out to the bank. It means your interest cost a little bit more because you're floating short-term money on rebates. But either way, both options are budget neutral, and it's just a matter of which option the school district feels they decide. If there's decent amount of cash flow, obviously to pay less interest and pay it off faster is obviously a benefit to the school district and the taxpayers. Net. Couple of other things. First of all, our warranty, typically in the lighting industry, everything is between 3 and 5 years warranty. We have a 7-year warranty, so the warranty will actually still be in place when you've actually paid for the product and the project. So we have a 7-year warranty. Right now, the metrics, the furthest we can go back on this developed product line, version 1 of our smart lighting, is the Rochester School District. We've had service levels of 0.15% on an annual basis. Now, that's about half of what the typical metric would be of lights that should be serviced in LED. So we're pretty pleased that it's about half of what is normal. We put about 7,000 fixtures into the Rochester School District starting in 2018. And we've, I think, 36 lights have had needed service. So the great thing is what we're not calculating in this $84,000 is the savings that, Larry is going out and spending, $1,000, $1,200 at a pop to buy 20 ballasts today. Just the ballast replacements are costing almost $60 a piece today. Plus there's the ladder time. We also have not put any accelerators into your energy costs in this model. So often companies will come in and say, well, we're going to put like a 2% accelerator on an annual basis to kind of help support that the savings will grow. We're using today's energy costs. Obviously, as energy costs go up, your savings will also go up and you'll pay for the project faster. And we certainly expect that energy costs are going to continue to go up, today and for the foreseeable future. So net, after the project pays itself back, you're putting lights in, that are going to be making decisions for lights that are going in for the next 20 years. They're rated for much longer, but we kind of use 20 years as, hey, the lifetime of the fixtures. There'll be some new technology. I don't know, we'll be spraying quantum dots on the ceiling or something 20 years from now. But the return on investment the cumulative return on investment is close to 1.1 million across 20 years. And that is 100% savings after the project is paid for. The cumulative savings is almost 1.6 million. Obviously, you'll pay for the project with that savings as well, but it's pretty significant. It's really a no-brainer because the project pays for itself. Projects that we're currently working on locally, there's information in your booklet a little bit about it. Where, we've just started on the Dover School District. We're finishing up the York School District. We're working in MSED 35, which is Elliott, South Berwick, the Marshwood schools. Right now, we just finished the Milton School District. So it's a pretty active time, obviously, because energy costs are unstable. And the cost of trying to service old technologies is rising. The other piece that is really good in terms of, carbon footprint is we're talking about a reduction of about 350,000 kilowatt hours per year of energy. Not only are you going to save almost $84,000 a year, but that contributes to a reduced carbon footprint of 570,000 pounds of CO2 avoided on an annual basis, just from changing the lights in the schools. We're also going to remove all hazardous materials out. Every fluorescent light has mercury vapor inside, so and puts out a UV footprint. That'll all be removed. So color rendering, the quality of light, certainly special ed classrooms will be a fairly significant difference in the environment. Even a room like this, all of a sudden the colors are going to come out real again because fluorescent lighting only has about a 30% actual color rendering, and we'll be putting things in that are almost 80% to natural light. So it's really a win-win across the board.
So is this something that we would still have to, I know you said it's.
Like a
because-
warrant.
Right,
You don't have to do a warrant because you don't actually have to
we're not
put
appropriating
the full
them.
cost of the project or appropriate any additional money towards it. We're just going to use what we already have appropriated for electricity in the budget to pay for it.
Municipal lease purchase has a non-appropriations clause,
Right,
which allows the governing body to be able to make those decisions. And quite frankly, that's the reason why the wording is in the municipal lease purchases, is so that you can actually use your existing budget to pay for the project.
anybody else, any questions? Or are we just ready to digest for a hot minute? I mean, I think it's something I know that we've looked at in the past, and it's kind of been an ongoing kind of conversation. And like you said, the last time you were here was COVID. Obviously that, put a kink in a lot of plans. So I think this is all timely and good information. So I think we'll need to digest and
Was there a recommendation made last time? I can't remember.
That's what I thought, yeah, right.
Is that your
That's what I-
recollection, Mary?
We
Well-
previously had a warrant article, but now I'm hearing that we don't need one.
You don't need one for this project. You're not appropriating any additional money to pay for it.
I do know that it was approved. It passed on the budget, but then it didn't pass MS probably 25. There was kickback because of the way,
It was some sort of verbiage in there. I'd have to go back to look, but I think
did it have
it
to
was
do with,
like,
no, it wasn't funding. I apologize, I don't remember exactly what it was, but
well, I want to say the warrant didn't read to be funded through a municipal lease or something. It just said like net zero, and it was a little unclear of where the funds were coming from, if I'm remembering it
And then when it-
semi-correctly.
and then when
Were
it
the
got,
parameters different last time?
I don't think they were. I think it was just the way that it was written on the warrant. It kind of like handcuffed us from moving forward.
but if
I
we
should remember this.
we don't need a warrant article now. Why did we need one before?
It may, I mean, that was 3 years ago. I don't know if anything changed. Or if that was, I don't remember if that was,
It may have been that it wasn't necessarily a lease purchase, that was a bond or an energy savings performance contract, and those things are taking on a debt.
okay, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, but you'll take on no debt. The non-appropriations clause basically allows, the simple appropriation of the annual budget, accrual of savings on the annual budget, unspent annual budget, to be applied at the end of the year to pay for this. And the way that the team at Municipal Leasing Consultants, who shops the country for the best rates, they've been doing this for Renee and Robin Pichet. They're out of Burlington, Vermont. They've been doing this for 37 years. They're really, really good. And specifically the way the lease purchase is written is that you're using your annual operating expense, and there's no official debt that is burdened onto the school and the taxpayers.
It was a warrant article in 21 and it did pass.
It did, but then
Right, but
when
then
it
we,
got to DRA for the MS7 maybe, whichever one,
We-
they said that the language was not specific enough, that even had it been a unanimous vote, it didn't carry because,
I think I could see this here, no amount to be raised from taxation, which I think is incorrect because you're still raising your lease payments through taxation. You're just not, like you said, you're not taking on a new debt and you're
Right.
not.
so
You know.
that pulled the plug, no pun intended.
I could see them have an issue, yeah, with the wording. But
That was the,
so yeah, I knew,
and then it just got backburnered for moving on,
right.
and we're
How
back.
recently did you work with the town?
On this project,
The town of Farmington, you said you did the town hall lights.
Arthur was still in charge. We did the town hall, street lighting, the senior center. We were partnered with Resilient Buildings, Dana Newton, his team on the senior center. The buildings were pre-COVID. Yeah.
At least that was when the antique lighting that Bueller had paid for
Right.
came down and those lights went up instead.
Mhm.
Now, since that time, everything that we now build is all smart lighting. So to give you examples of smart lighting, not only does every single fixture has a sensor, and when a room is completed with smart lighting, there are everything is grouped together. The switches are communicating with all the light fixtures and we give them a personality depending on what type of room they are. Everything that is close to the windows, daylight harvesting is turned on so that as brighter light, if there's natural daylight coming in, the lights will actually balance themselves and dim down to squeeze the sponge, so to speak, so that you're not using more energy than you need to because natural daylight is being harvested, which is great. When you get to like some bright sunny days and the sun is coming directly in, you'll look up and notice without realizing that they slowly came down, that the lights are almost not on at all. We set up scenes for classrooms typically where the projector boards, it's really difficult. Teachers will generally shut off the lights often because the kids can't see with the fluorescent lighting. They really can't see the projector boards. So we'll set up a scene where the teacher just walks over and hits the scene button on the light switch. And that scene button will shut off all the lights in front of the projector board, take the entire room down to about 30% so kids can still take notes, no napping in the back, and the board is visible again. So, and we tailor, depending on what facilities team generally thinks is appropriate and the school district thinks is appropriate, we'll tailor different behaviors for different types of rooms and classrooms. The other thing that's eliminated because there's no more UV footprint coming out of the lights, productivity generally goes up because, we get tired under fluorescent lights. You don't realize it, and particularly students, younger kids, they feel the impact even more. So there is studies out there that show that productivity goes up because they're just not tired. That flicker is noticeable to some people, noticeable less to other people, but it has an impact on the work environment.
What is the expected, the lead time if, when we want to start? And then how long would it roughly take to be installed?
So, based on the total project that has, there's a total of 2,400 fixtures in the district. And this includes also, we've done a walkthrough to look at some improvements. There's an exterior part of this as well, which includes some improvements between Henry Wilson and the high school, where we've strategically looked at. Originally, we thought it was power running all the way through and realized that it's low voltage just to get to the Wi-Fi system out in the so we've looked at exterior improvements as well. And by the way, 93% of all the fixtures in the district will actually be smart, which is a very high percentage relative to some of the work we do. It just happens to be the type of fixtures that you've got in the school district. For 2,400 fixtures, we're probably looking at somewhere in the range of about maybe 10 weeks of installation work, approximately. And that will be the way our contractors work is we'll bring in a team that will work, obviously when there are days that there's no school, they'll work during the day shift. But it's important that they come in, they do their work, they clean up, and then everything is left exactly the way it was, that nobody knows that they've been in a classroom. So that we don't necessarily just have to wait only for summer months. The team will come in and they'll work kind of a second shift. They come in usually to start setting up around 2:30 and around 3 o'clock when it's just less occupancy in the schools. They begin to go to work and they'll work until about 11 p.m.
In the example of this room that we're sitting in, would the ceiling need to be modified, or you use what you have?
No modification. This is a retrofit project, so
Okay.
we will be replacing existing lights with new lights. And just to give you an example, these are 3 lamp fixtures. Even where there are ballasts burned out in here, or tubes burned out, you're actually using full power even where lights are not burning. If the tubes are burned out and the ballasts are still running. we'll take a typical fixture like this, just to give you an example. This is a 3-lamp fixture is an 88-watt fixture, just to give you an example. So every hour it's burning 88 watts. We'll take that fixture out and put in a 26-watt fixture. Most companies will put in like a 30 or a 34-watt fixture because to get the light output, they need to put that much wattage out there because it's all about how many lumens you get out of every watt. We're pushing almost 150 lumens per watt, which means more light with less power. And we're doing that with more LEDs and just underdriving them. What that means, not to get too technical, what that means is that most importantly, you get more light with less power. So when we put in a 26-watt fixture, sounds great, going from 88 to 26. We will typically lock down the high-end trim. I think we did this in the Milton School District. We did this in Rochester. In most of the school districts, those 26-watt fixtures will probably get locked down to 18.2 watts at 70% of their total brightness. And that's the maximum that the switches will turn them on, and they're bright. So we're going from 88 down to 18, and we have the ability to adjust those depending on the lighting density for every single room. So, high efficiency and smart lighting allows us really to squeeze the sponge and tweak, most importantly, to make sure you have great light and being as efficient as possible. Teachers will have offices, staff across the school district will have switches to be able to brighten and dim still. They'll be able to dim, but they'll also have those scene switches, and they'll also have the ability to shut off the smart system when they hit off. The younger classrooms where the kids are taking naps or just quiet time, you don't want sensors going off and turning the lights back on. You want the lights to stay off. So there's actually a complete override of the system to keep them off. And very simple. Nobody needs to touch buttons when they walk out of the room. When they walk out of the room, we'll have programmed them to go through a sequential timeout of slowly getting dimmer, and then they'll shut off. It's really cool stuff.
It's really magical the way they come through and install it all. It's like the most amazing process to watch. In the project work rate in Milton, we saw a drastic reduction of electricity. The relationship that you have with Affinity Lighting doesn't end once we sign the lease. In fact, you get two relationships out of this because you work with MLC and then you work with Affinity. You get Steve and his team. So in Milton, I know I had to follow up once on the Eversource credit, for example, and it was within hours. The financial head over there for Affinity is emailing me back, telling me what to expect. So I found that relationship really beneficial. And then, of course, the return on investment for this project is something that I have a hard time turning away from. Just a financial mind. The cumulative savings of 1.6 million, including paying for the project, helps to future-proof this district and return a little bit of that money in a roundabout way back to the district and therefore kind of the taxpayer. So it's just something that I valued the first time I saw it, and then came to really become affectionate towards when I saw it happening in front of me and seeing the results. So.
Anybody have any other questions?
Larry, you're recommending this upgrade? Hallelujah.
Right?
And the gyms will have controls also. So
Hallelujah.
when there's
And
games,
the reason I say that is because number one, obviously we use the gym a lot. We get the best compliments about this school and how new it still looks despite its 27-year-old age. But we get nothing but complaints about lighting in the gym. And it's typically from officials.
Yeah.
Who say you've got too
It's
many
too
dark spots
yellow,
on the
yeah.
floor. It's not good. So
I think that's one thing that we really take pride in is what we do in the gymnasiums. And it's really interesting. We put together lighting plans, and the lighting plan that we have put together for Milton When we had installed the lighting plan, the superintendent and Mac and the facilities director were not satisfied. And they said, we thought it was going to be brighter. It was about 50% more lumens and like color for the first time back into the gym, but they weren't satisfied. So we had a conversation about what needs to be done. And we brought in another dozen fixtures, actually, and installed them, all with controls as well. There was no cost to the district because the contingencies built in, because if you can imagine, like the infrastructure, as we get into the infrastructure, we find things, and we don't want to come and ask for a change order every time we find something. So we try to save some budget for those decisions where we'll walk through with facilities director, superintendent, business administrator, and there'll be a decision made to say, hey, can we make some adjustments here? So we changed the lighting plan in the gym, and it looks magnificent.
Truly it does.
We didn't think it needed it, but when it was done, wow, it was incredible. There was no additional cost to the district. We fit it into the project. And I think, something that Mackenzie just mentioned was companies, there aren't a lot of companies like us, but there's nobody that does what we do the way we do it. The relationship that we will have, because we have a 7-year relationship just on the equipment warranty, but just generally, if there's programming changes, programming needs, different uses of spaces, all it takes is a phone call. If there's service needed, there's only one phone call to make. Generally, companies like us that do this are project management companies, and they're going to a lighting distributor to get the lighting, bringing in the lighting company to do the programming. And when you have these issues, whether they be just updates in programming, service or warranty issues, it's really hard to find who it is that you're supposed to talk to. Do you talk to, for example, do you talk to somebody at Philips? Do you talk to a lighting distributor? Do you talk to the lighting group that represents Philips? Do you talk to the project management company that's been gone for 3 or 4 years and has moved on? Just, they have no other interest there. For us, we consider this to be a long-term partnership. It's not just a transaction for us. And I think the testimonials that you'll see in there from our customers will speak to that, because that's something that I take very personally, to make sure that every one of our customers is very satisfied.
Are we comfortable in making a motion tonight? Or
I'll make the motion to approve the lighting efficiency upgrade by Affinity as presented this evening and recommended by facilities and SAU administration.
Can we, for the motion, can we have it say option 1?
Oh.
And then just the actual amount with it.
that's
too.
with the, with the
Yeah, and that's for the
Eversource.
leasing company, because they're
Okay.
gonna want.
now, while we're,
Option
Okay.
1 is the budget neutral
Right.
proposition, and then option 2, you have to look at differently, because you're taking the incentive and using it for something else.
and this isn't something we have to waive bid on or anything, because we're not paying out, I guess. I don't,
I think you'll find here with this one is, I think you have the benefit too. You already have done kind of the research, and you can put it on a warrant and have that approved. It's
Right.
funny, I didn't know that, but with this one in Milton, I think the only other bid was from a local company, and that was $400,000 up front. So you're not getting the interest. That's a warrant article for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
okay,
And option one will actually put you cash positive. Currently, with no change in costs, you'll actually be paying out about $6,000 to $7,000 less per year. So it'll be significantly less than your savings.
Right.
Option one.
Okay, so Cheryl, you can add to my motion, option 1, for a total of $669,367.
And we had a second, right? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
It's nice to meet all of you again.
Thank you, Larry.
Good work, Larry.
Yeah, thanks for digging that up and bringing it back to us. We'll get you off the ladder.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night, Steve.
Moving on to minutes. Minutes of October 16th. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 16th, 2023, public session and non-public session 1 as written.
Again,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alrighty. Unfinished business. Anybody have any unfinished business?
I will speak to the wellness policy.
Yep.
The state approved the one that we had with the one that you had the revised.
Yeah.
That one, I think Mary found it, or I don't know who found it, but
Right.
they accepted that.
Okay, perfect. Jim, do you want to go over the Power School proposal, or do you want to do that? We don't have to do that now. When do you want to do it?
Whenever you'd like.
Have at it.
can, what,
What? Nope, you guys go ahead.
I'm just wondering when we're gonna dive into budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Quite
We can.
frankly,
This meeting was called specifically
For budget.
And, you know, the tendrils that
It
are
can
going
wait.
out are gonna keep us here until.
well, we're gonna be in next Monday, so.
Right.
you know, if
Well,
it
we'll-
can't
Or you
wait
want to
later
scan,
this week.
can you add that to our board folder?
Yes,
Perfect.
I do have some personnel matters that we should address.
Oh, yeah, we're
Won't take long.
still doing non-public, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So nobody, we're else good on unfinished? Budget. Everybody has a nice little orange folder. Everybody good? The floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, so the budget itself is something that we had to work kind of hard to get together quickly, so we devised the means of doing it. In front of you, you're going to see the first page is your summary, which shows you just a high-level overview of what's changing in each code. To construct that, I went with some of the numbers that Mary reconciled with what was proposed and actually voted in last year for the budget. So there's going to be some sort of an artificial increase here because what we thought was voted wasn't actually voted. So that being said, we're close to a 7, almost 8% increase year over year on the budget. I asked the school district leaders to meet with their staff and each individually propose what is needed in their eyes to run this district. I will say that 8% isn't taken lightly. There was a lot of lines that only had $1 in them. And because I've asked them to put in what they need, the assumption is they may not get it at the end of the day. But I asked them to help me create a portfolio and picture of what it takes to run this district annually. Browsing backwards towards last year, I read through some of the deliberative minutes, things like that. There was some interesting I think, assumptions taken, although I think in the right heart context, there's some individuals saying things like, we should be using grants to supplement this budget. And I'll just be honest, it's not the point of a grant to erase a reoccurring expenditure, because you will come to find that if you take enough pieces of the road away, eventually you'll fall off a cliff. And that's called a fiscal cliff, or fiscal cliffing your budget, when you take money out of there that should be there reoccurring every year and putting it into a grant that ends, eventually that expense will come back. So I believe that we're seeing some of that built into here as well. So as you're browsing through, if you notice a lot of lines that were 0 or 1 last year, they probably have another amount in them this year. And it'll look like a high percentage increase, but it's something to point out for while you're looking at it. My first kind of plot or plan was to leave you with this information and give you time to digest it. And if you wanted to meet again for a budget workshop, I'd be more than happy to do that. But it's all how the board wants to proceed. I broke the proposal into a master budget, of course, in order of how it should be. And then I broke that into each department code, as well as a salary overview as well. Some things that the district is facing this year is another increase to our health insurance. The estimate used in this proposal is unfortunately not correct, because I received a 6.2 effective rate average at the school care conference. We got the official letter Friday, I think, or Thursday, and it's 8.2% increase year over year. So there's some more monies to be figuratively budgeted in for that insurance increase, and that is medical only for those who the district helps pay for. And that does not include a smaller increase to dental, somewhere around 1% to 2%. So, which is common in my experience, that the dental isn't as subject to high fluctuations. But I'm sure last year you probably saw a big increase to medical as well. And that is due to exiting the pandemic era. As insurance companies are fully realizing their costs from the pandemic, they're pushing those costs back onto their portfolio of clients. And these aren't the terrible, scary insurance companies we're all used to working with, and other, coming from private. This is a company that works and sells insurance to municipalities. So I'm talking about school care, and our dental is offered through Health Trust, and they partner with a larger insurance company to deliver on the insurance coverage. But the Health Trust and school care entities themselves are publicly, for lack of a better word, because they're so municipally related, they're partially publicly funded. They're in a funny little gray area. So they have to maintain pretty strict funds, if you will, for themselves to pay out on claims. All the money that goes into this pool is all from municipalities, towns, schools, other municipalities in New Hampshire. So interesting to think about there, but they are going up on those rates. I just didn't want to have it come from a negative standpoint of why are they doing it. And that answer is to cover cost and be fiscally savvy, which only benefits us all in the long run. That being said, this year, I don't know if it was fully realized in the budget, but I believe the retirement they had budgeted for does not reflect the decrease in the employer percentage that happened last year. So I decided not to propose any major increases for retirement. We get those rates from the board, the NHRS themselves, and they're set every few years. So they were doing well on their investments last year and decided to lower their rates. So something that we found out that hadn't been actually being accounted for in the system, and I fixed. But that saves us a little room on retirement, because you would normally see that go up more drastically in relation to salaries. And there's some salary specific items we have to talk about, I think, further on, which Jim may not have mentioned, but there's that. So you have each department. I didn't put anything into the trust funds. I figured that would be a good conversation for us to have together. I'm not familiar with how this district likes to, or what they'll propose, or kind of where the funds are at themselves. And I kept our transfer to food service line the same. We lost, unfortunately, a little bit of money last year, but it didn't wipe out our food service fund or anything like that. So I kept the amount the same, and our food service provider has, I believe, increased our prices as well to help compensate for that. But the fund itself is still in a good place, which is run off of its own revenue. And the year prior, we had earned close to $160,000 in profit for that account. So we were okay to take a small loss this year. In terms of grant funding, there isn't anything on this budget. This budget is strictly regarding our general fund and food service right now. And we have to decide what's going to be appropriated this year for grants too. But that's a different conversation, and it doesn't need to be part of this specific warrant either, or we can add it in when we go to actually do the warrant. And I think this will obviously, I think as it stands now, be some sort of tax rate increase. I'm not sure, because I think we're giving some fund balance back. I don't know how drastic, but that's only fair to say out loud. But I can also see, judging based upon previous default budgets, that our default budget will probably come in higher than this. But that has not been done yet. And just so we know what the difference is, what constitutes a default budget is every obligation the district has to complete, either to its staff or to the vital cause of educating students. It has to go into a default budget, but we cannot propose new funds that are not within that realm of either contracts or vital service to this district, like electricity. We can't put that into a default budget. So the idea of a default budget typically sounds lower, but if you're stripping things out of your budget every year, you're kind of unknowingly ignoring the default budget issue, and you're proposing lower amounts than what actually takes to run the district. So that's kind of the initial spiel. I didn't want to overload anyone tonight. It's probably a lot to look at, but you guys can judge or ask questions, concerns for yourselves.
Go ahead, Mary.
Do we have an anticipated fund balance yet?
The fund balance that I have on the DOE right now is $1 million.
The DOE 25?
That's correct, yeah.
All right, so,
That is an unaudited
right,
form, of course, but
that went forward. It had requests to be corrected that came back. Has it been finalized?
yes, none of those had anything to do with the fund balance, just placement of the numbers on the form itself. And we just sent through the most recent version this evening, so we're hoping for an approval. But we were down to just 2 items they wanted corrected.
How does that go forward without board approval?
The state has to approve the form either way. I can either bring you the approved version, or you can approve the one that's not approved by the DOE and then re-sign it after. That's up to you.
I just know it requires board approval.
I had asked those title sheets to be signed at the previous meeting, but they were not signed.
Next year, 23, 24. Yeah, 24, 25, sorry. The fiscal year starts July 1st. 3 months later, 90 days later, all ESSER funding is stopped. So does this budget include 3/4 of the salary that has the salaries and positions that were moved into ESSER 3 now have to come back, or they're done 2 weeks after they start school? So we need to make sure that if we're bringing them back, and the second part of that is when we moved lots of positions and we added a lot of positions, interventionalists, things like that, the proposal at the time was that those were ESSER only, that they would not be coming back.
Right.
So we're going to need some guidance as to
What and
which
where?
ones in ESSER were short-term, which ones are coming back, how's that gonna affect the bottom line?
So I'll tell you, Mary, there's more work to do there. Yeah, there's going to be more work for that.
And I guess my final statement's gonna be, I can tell you right now, 8% is not gonna fly. It simply won't. We're looking at somewhere in my mind, I'll throw it out there, 3.5 at the max. I could, if this were presented to the budget committee tonight, they would say, back to the drawing board. I haven't looked at it. We were supposed to have it last week, so we could look it over and be asking questions tonight. Now I think we have to take this home and do it. But you have 2 work days next week?
I mean, I can,
Well, no, I'm just saying, here we are tonight. If we wait and do final approval a week from tonight, that doesn't give you much time to put all the binders together for the budget committee to have
on the
in their
29th.
possession. No,
Oh,
they get
before-
it
before the holiday.
Thanksgiving. They get it on the 22nd?
Yeah, because they usually get it the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
They're not doing that Wednesday, they're skipping until the 29th, but the binders are prepared that at the very latest that morning of the last day and brought to the town offices. The budget committee members go there and pick them up so that they have them for the thing. Yeah, that's the way it's always been.
Would you guys like to meet again Thursday?
Well, here's the problem. Nicole's out tomorrow night. You're out Wednesday night. You're out Thursday night. I don't do Fridays.
I don't blame.
I don't know.
No one does. Yeah.
Don't plan it around me because I'm on call with a medical issue at home, so I may or may not be able to be here, but I don't see how we can not schedule another length.
I mean, I could ultimately move my commitment on Thursday. But I would like to have, at the very least, principals here. It's odd not to, it would
This-
be odd.
Yeah. The point of this was to just give you time to come up with questions to ask. But I can get them here. Jim and I can work to make that happen.
Unless we have them here, we have another meeting and then we have them here next Monday. Which they're probably here for reports anyway.
I don't know what makes,
Yeah, I could take your most pressing questions, concerns, and give an update about the grant information, because that could very well increase the bottom line here.
Yeah,
What
because
Mary just told me.
if we've got 15 employees that are currently being paid out of ESSER, and they're only going to be able to be paid for 3 months,
right,
or let go, or for whatever.
Right.
And I do know that some of those positions were, as a result, taking advantage of the ESSER opportunity and allowing interventionalists, psychologists, people of that nature to
right.
come in and get us over the hump. But here we are at the end of we're getting very close to the point of no return on knowing where our educational status is. Are the kids doing better? Are they doing worse? We haven't seen anything. We got kids that are going to school every day. By the end of this marking period, they're very close to not being able to pull those kids back. And that's an issue. Kind of a sidebar to that, but it leads me to wonder if we're going to decide that we're going to leave all of the positions that we bought in ESSER, if we're going to leave them in this budget, that's probably another I didn't want
They're,
to put a
yeah,
number
they're
on it.
not low paying positions, I
No,
think,
I know.
is what I understand either.
Right.
They're, they're substantial.
And unfortunately,
services.
not having the information of our kids are doing less, they're doing level, or they're doing better, we don't know whether we need to keep those additional positions or not.
Right.
That's just one of them.
Because I think it was,
I think there were like 14 or 15 positions.
I don't know. This is from a while ago. This is from, I don't know if this was last budget cycle. It looks like position, well, this is positions moved to ESSER that are not in the school year 22 expenditures.
You give us some examples.
So this is 2 ELA teachers at Henry Wilson, a math interventionist at the high school, but I don't think we ever filled that. So that might be a wash. Reading interventionist at Valley View, 2 speech assistants, a social worker, half year filled. I don't really know if we used half.
Well, maybe we couldn't get someone.
Right, yeah, I
We
don't
probably
know.
did.
The SROs
Yeah, the
and
SROs are gonna only be able to work until September 30th.
technology oversight tech director. But I don't know if that's in hopes that we would have somebody,
I think that got,
or
put
is
into
that
mainstay.
mainstay?
That is
yeah,
mainstay.
it's in
Okay.
mainstay, and we were able to charge that
Now,
to there.
my question as far as mainstay and SROs go, I believe when we went with mainstay, we did a 3-year contract that we paid for up front through ESSER funds. Are we still able to enter into multi-year contracts with ESSER? If we are, I would encourage us to look at, again, using ESSER funds for mainstay as well as the SROs.
You mean putting them into 3?
Yes.
Did you ever get contacted by Ken Dickey about a potential meeting with Chief
No.
to talk about SRO stuff? Because he reached out and I told him to call you.
No, I have not heard from him.
Good question.
So if we can use,
If we can prepay.
if we can prepay, which I don't know if things have changed since I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 that we used to pay for mainstay. I don't know if it changes or if they've, tightened that at all, but if we can get an answer from the DOE on multi-year contracts with ESSER,
Hmm. I can find that out.
okay. Yeah,
If the board so chooses, I could, now that the state data was just released, take a look at particular positions and see if there's any kind of, you can't say a correlation, but there might be some kind of matchup of information. So just for example, I know from English language arts here at Henry Wilson, and you mentioned there were 2 that were being paid out of.
yep,
We went, make sure I'm looking at the correct color. For ELA proficiency last year, now this is Henry Wilson for the whole building, was 48%, and which was still just below the state. Last year, we're at 55% proficiency, and the state is at 52. So in English language arts at Henry Wilson, we have exceeded the state level of proficiency. So those are the kinds of things I could take a look at if
right.
so
Well,
desired.
and-
I can't make exact correlations, though.
Well, no.
High school is
Right,
a little difficult with the math program that we put into place is just kind of rolling up into the high school. So you're not going to see that There will be assessments again for SAT, PSAT, but that happens in the spring, so you
Right.
wouldn't be able to see changes.
And they're ma-
We invested in the learning management system, and
And I think there are notes on this, positions moved to ESSER will need to write for 24. So I don't know if that's will need to write into ESSER for 24 or will need to write into, right into the budget, right.
Stacy, even if we decide we need every single one of
Right, that's going to
we
increase.
can only fund until September 30th.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
When you were gone, I had this up on Mary too, Stacy did bring up too that, just having Matt follow up to see if we can use our ESSER funds to like prepay for multi-year contracts, like such as Mainstay. So I just didn't want you to miss that piece.
I'm just wondering whether or not,
There too.
I mean, we could do it before, because if we knew there was gonna be an ESSER 4 or an ESSER 5.
Right, that's what
I
I
would
don't
feel
know
a
if
whole
that's
lot more
why,
confident
yeah.
in that, but I don't see it. I mean, I don't wanna build a budget based on.
Well, and then it cuts it well, I mean, there would be an exit clause on all of those, so I guess you're not totally handcuffing a future board, but I guess that would be the question.
I think it's pertinent to do that as long as you're comfortable with the service. I mean, you're never gonna. I don't know. That's kind of like unless the next board has this plan to totally overhaul everything and bring it back in house.
Right.
It's only going to be apples to apples. It's Mainstay or Back Bay or whatever. The biggest sense of change would be to bring it all in house. And at this point, where Mainstay has become a little more ingrained in our operation, and now we have people training with them, it almost seems like counterproductive to do that.
And there's as you know, there's multiple fingers in the technology pie in terms of outside vendors and so on and so forth.
Right.
So
So I think, if we can get an answer from the DOE on the multi-year contracts.
Yeah.
Specifically technology and SROs. I
Yep.
think that would be helpful in solidifying this budget.
we have asked, and Mainstay has provided numbers for a renewal under a 3-year scenario, as well as an annual scenario.
Okay,
We can make that available to you.
okay.
And I know in a lot of other districts too, and I know we don't want to depend on grants, but grants are used oftentimes for those interventionist positions, so
That's what
I'm just wondering.
if there's another grant somewhere that would cover those that we could apply for.
Elaine had mentioned a position that she was going to be able to fund through something.
Right,
But I think that position was over and above what we've already got.
correct.
on the
Yeah,
table.
I'm
Yeah.
just looking at like the math interventionist, the reading interventionist, like the speech and language assistants, those are typically used for special education, so I wonder if Colleen would be helpful to figure out, like, maybe just looking into that.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I know that's often used in a lot of other districts, that's how those positions are
Funded.
funded. So I think we can get creative, so like looking at these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so those 7 different lines, like if we can prepay using ESSER for the technology oversight, and we could find those grants and know that they're out there
We have some breathing.
for the interventionists, for math interventionists, reading interventionists, the 2 speech and language assistants, even social worker, based on some of the stuff that we have in district and just our property level. And
Okay. Yeah, I can meet with Colleen as well.
I guess my point there is that's a great place to go. I fear that we don't have the time left to allow that to be an option. I think we either have to budget for those people, find it through a grant. Do we have time to find out whether all of these things can be? And A, are the grants out there? B, are we going to be approved for them, approved at full level? How many people out of the 7, maybe we can cover 3? What about the other 4? We feel we still need them, but they're not grant covered, so the only other way to pay them is budget.
Right.
And all, from what I think I'm seeing there, is that your 8% is gonna go, has no choice but to go even higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's my fear. Myself, and not to say that the district doesn't need it or doesn't deserve it, but there's always a reality component here when it comes to fiscal spending, is how much your community can effectively contribute. You know, and that's for everyone. I mean, we have to take that decision very carefully, and
Yeah, we serve 2 masters. We serve, first of all, the school, but we also serve the
The
taxpayers
taxpayer,
that
right.
put us here, and that's as likely a problem.
And then
We can
so,
do all the magic that we want,
Right.
but there's still that X on March 10th. Whether they pass Article 3 or
so
not.
how accurate this is, I do not know, because I don't know at what point this was given to us, but this says current, school year 23 vacancies moved to ESSER for SY 24 is $1,006,911.28. Of those positions, I don't know what is currently filled. So if there are positions like, well, I mean, I just know looking at this short list, which there are more in there, but we don't have a math interventionist. I think we're still short a reading interventionist. Those would, you know, we might not need those. Well, maybe, I don't know. We'd have to look at it, but we wouldn't need those positions. We could take those off, you know, altogether. And I don't know what else is in there as far as other positions that we have not filled. So if they've not been filled for the last 2 to 3 years, we could bring those back in, but at like $1 just to leave it there if we needed it.
yeah, and
So I think, getting those lists, of that list of what is in,
what constitutes that 1.116 or
yep,
what have you. And then having another discussion about that.
what we want to keep,
Okay.
what makes sense to keep, what,
Well, and then it says other positions into ESSA for school year 24, which is what we're talking about. And that's different.
We're in 24.
no, we're in 24, yeah.
The terminology
But
school
it's
year.
different than, what I'm saying.
Right,
it's
I
different.
know.
That 24 is different than the 22 is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
Is it
some of
larger
those
or
positions
smaller?
aren't even in there.
Those positions
Is it?
total 902,000, so there's a little bit of a difference.
Right.
There's
Which
about
could be
100
the
grand.
difference of one person,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, with some of the specialties we
It
have,
actually is probably the SROs.
Could be.
it could be.
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
No,
SROs
that's
went up.
there.
No.
No.
No, his
Tech
budget went up.
oversight went down a little.
His,
Social worker.
Yeah.
Went up. Math intervention.
So salaries, I think, are, that's a priority. The supply lines that were submitted by, I assume, the building principals. Is it a wish list, I assume?
Like I
Pie
said,
in the sky number?
this
or-
is how I look at it. As a personality and as someone who manages money, I have a fiscally conservative mindset. I'd rather try to find the worst case scenario and bring that to you and let you engage with that and tear out what you think is not necessary. Or you go into a, an aversion mode here and you shut out what you don't need, like absolutely do not need. I'd rather at least go through that process in the motion every year of saying, this is what we need. This is what it has to be, and it paints a better picture, I think, for everybody. And it's a little bit more transparent in that. That way, if we come back, it may seem like a lot this year, but if we come back and ask for the same thing next year, but slightly different, over time, I think we start to paint that picture of this is really what's reoccurring for the district. And just to give you an idea, anyone listening and for the board too, just bear with me.
If I can just jump in while he's
Yeah.
looking, and that is why a budget workshop, it's imperative to have
The-
building principals, athletics, transportation, facilities, curriculum, director of student services. All of those people need to be at a workshop.
But
Because
we've never
number one-
seen that before.
What?
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that since I've been on.
We've had it before.
Yeah, no,
So I'll
not
tell
in
you
the
this.
last.
We've had it before. I mean, to me, that is a major responsibility of being a department head or a building administrator or an
absolutely.
SAU administrator.
To Joel's point, it is necessary and it's crucial to have them here. When we're ready to have that in-depth discussion, and I know we're on a reduced time frame and our backs kind of against the wall this year, but roughly 85% of your budget that you're holding right here is already salaries.
Right.
So that's a big number, and that's something we all have to kind of contend with while we're looking through this. Is even if we start cutting other services and equipment and supplies, it's not making that big of an impact to the bottom line, just in proportion to salaries. Now, I'm not saying let's take a lawnmower and cut everyone's salary, but I just, I want there to be that knowledge that in general, 85% of what we're talking about here constitutes people's livelihoods, what they do for work and so on and so forth. And a lot of that is tough to make decisions on. So
Rough idea, in the millions. What did we spend last year in Fund 10? Last report I saw said 14 million.
yeah,
Last year-
roughly
last year we-
14.9 maybe.
Okay, last year we budgeted 16 and spent 14 and a half. $1.5 million there.
Right.
And now we're looking at adding another 1.3 million on top of what we budgeted last year that we didn't spend. The amount of the increase is fairly close to the dollar amount difference between what we budgeted and what we spent.
The default proposal put out last year was $1.7 million higher than the
Right.
proposed
But-
amount. So
No,
the
but-
money is still required whether or not we budget for it and or use it all, and whether or not that was the most effective use of those funds is always up for debate.
Yeah, but $1.5 million, 1.3 million is $2.35 on the tax rate. So what I'm saying is if we budget $1.5 million more than, and I know some of that's cash flow, but looking at the difference between what we budgeted and what we spent being roughly 1.3 million, if we do that again, then we're asking the taxpayers to pay $2.50 more per thousand right now, or in the next tax rate setting. And then we're going to give it back to them at the end. We're asking for them to write bigger checks that necessarily didn't need to be made. And I make that assumption based on the fact that we budgeted 16 million and we didn't need it. I mean, I'm not saying cut it right back to every penny spent. If I had my way, what I would do was take last year's expenses that we know, make the adjustments to salaries coming back. That's another number. Throw a cost of living expense in there and see where we stand.
That's what I've tried to do too with the 2%. is what I consider just a base
Well,
cost.
that 2% was voted on. Was it not? Didn't we vote 2% for the COLA?
This was just my assumption. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have no
I think
idea,
we
but-
did. It's a skating rink game because you can glide through this and people are gonna say, oh, great, everything's hunky-dory until tax rate gets set. And they know that, okay, let's say this year if we turn back $2.35 worth of money, but then we buy it back again next year, then it's the peaks and the valleys that really, really upsets people. So the third part of our charge, I guess, is to find a happy medium. I think everybody taxes very seldom go down. They know they're gonna go up. We're the only people that can control the needs and the needs versus the wants, which are reflected in the bottom line.
Right.
And that's all I have.
Agreed. I think it just gets dicey. You know, we're obviously the biggest employer in town. So, and 85% of this budget is salaries. So those are, you know, guarantees, along with the increases in medical, COLA,
We're in year 2 of 2 collective bargaining agreements.
right, and we have that coming up. The pairs will be on the warrant, along with whatever our increase is here. So I think we just need to take a hard look at lines other than, you know, salaries other than what is in ESSER and what we need to bring back over.
I think that's a major question I'll have to spend this week and well until our next meeting working on. So that and actually keeping the grants up to date is kind of my next mission. We have a couple of final reports due tomorrow for grants too. So I think it's at least good timing. I'll be in right. That's where my head's going to be. So I'll take a close look at that and try and get an idea of what constitutes these numbers of what's being moved into these grants. And then we can bring that back. If you guys review the big picture and give us a good idea of where you want to take that 8% to, you know, we can meet in the middle and then put forward a really good product to your budget committee.
What's that leave us for a workshop? Is our admin team for that workshop need to have more than a couple days notice? I would
Now
think?
we've had a couple meetings with them and they know how important this is and they understand their role in the organization and the staff themselves, I'm sure the ones that can make it will come. So wholeheartedly.
I
Are they-
personally think if we set a meet, let's just hypothetically say we set a meeting for Thursday. If you can't come Thursday, you gotta be here Monday.
Right.
Because I could easily say, nope, we're not gonna increase the course reimbursement here. And somebody might say, well, this is the reason why I asked for that. You
Right.
know, I mean,
We can't
we can't,
Yeah,
mean-
second guess them.
we can whittle down the 8%, but
it might
I'd like
be,
to hear
right.
some of this, you know, and so.
Is your crystal ball working?
Get a magic wand.
And Jim and I will coordinate that. So
I just
we
feel
can
like
have
we
the
should,
staff here.
I mean, do you guys want to do it Thursday?
That's
Yep.
fine for me.
Absolutely.
Do you want to go
Do
earlier?
you want to do earlier for the staff?
Yeah,
Can we go earlier?
I don't-
I get out at 4 these days. Unless I leave early, then I get out when I leave.
Can everyone do as early as 4?
Yeah.
okay.
You get
I
that?
can even do,
Yeah, I mean, I
Earlier,
could do
I could
earlier
do
than
Friday.
that. Whatever,
Yeah,
You
but
got
you-
coverage?
Cheryl, is
Thursday.
that all okay? with you?
Yes.
You work Thursday?
I don't work Thursday anymore. Blake has acting class, but my mom can take it.
Okay.
So that's totally fine.
But you don't have coverage. Is your coverage back?
Yeah.
Oh,
That was last week, right?
Yeah, she walked into 30 people into her house when she got back from,
oh, I was
Yeah.
driving up and I saw all the cars and I said, what's going on? I thought she was gone.
surprise.
Okay.
We
Um,
want the staff, them here. I mean, do we want to go a little earlier? Or
Yeah.
can people do earlier than 4? Or no?
I mean, we could always, if you want, if you can't get here, right, like say we start at 3:30.
What's the
Or
earliest you
three.
think you could do?
I
Sorry,
could be
go-
here by 3.
Huh?
You can
I
be
could
here.
be here by
3.
3. That would give your staff, they're basically done at
Yeah.
what,
The only
2:25?
thing that I'll have to do is reschedule an athletic committee meeting, but we can reschedule that.
Oh, finally got it rolling and now you're gonna push
That's
it.
all right.
Well,
No,
that's-
this
Oh,
is,
this
This is
yeah,
way more
This
important.
is-
Of
Yeah.
course.
Unfortunately, this is our lifeblood.
Yeah.
yeah. So you want to do Thursday at 3?
I'm gonna tentatively say yes, but
Yeah.
Definitely should check with the principals because I know that they're also doing parent conferences and they're being around in their buildings.
On
to some
Thursday?
extent. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just,
Okay. Well,
Well, I think we should do it and whoever can
You do,
come can
yes.
come.
Right, because we can always do
Right, and then
non-building
not-
principals and then do the principals on Monday with the review
Right.
focus.
Correct.
Yeah.
you got,
Want it recorded 3:30 is better. I can't do that. So if you want me set down 3:30.
I mean,
For a workshop,
I don't think we need,
I don't think we need to.
I don't think we need to for a workshop, so I think we're good.
Thank you.
I think
Aye, aye, Captain.
All right, 3 o'clock
Sorry, we
Thursday.
always forget about you, Steve.
No, we
in
We
behind-
don't
Pay
forget
no
about
attention
you,
to
it's
the
just you're
man
not
behind
great.
the curtain,
Yeah,
Pushing all the buttons.
something else that the principals might bring or others might bring, and something as an example, we had an unintended extraordinary needs grant last year. It was $221,000.
right.
So we used that in lieu of potentially spending money elsewhere, and we also used it to pay forward and get some resources. So
Right.
there might be some other reasons too that the principals are aware of.
That's also, Ruth Ellen told us that it was 221 last year, 110
This,
for the next budget cycle. It's
And
gotta
we-
be the one we're in now.
we're
And
in
we
now.
haven't gotten that yet.
Okay. Also on Wednesday, I believe we get our announcement of, adequate.
Adequacy
Yeah.
aid.
Adequacy aid is November 15th.
So
I'm sorry, I'm
it should
exhausted.
be included in that adequacy aid then.
Okay,
Okay.
Ah, okay.
And then again, looking forward, looking ahead to see where can we do something with that to keep costs down.
Because I remember
going forward
when
a couple of years.
we sent Ruth Ellen and the team back to budget work, and a lot of the supply lines were dropped to $1. And at budget committee, I know Blanche Tanner said, where are you gonna buy that from? And Ruth
Right.
Ellen said, from the extraordinary needs grant.
right.
That was where all of the supplies, a total of probably over 100,000 was supposed to be supplemented out of that. Pass second base and hit third, I guess. So 3 PM budget,
Yes, please.
Here.
yeah, I was gonna say, with that many people, do we do it here? There really isn't a bigger,
Yeah, this is, I think, because we can go in and.
Mhm.
we should
I mean, should we assume that there's nothing going on here? We shouldn't assume, is what I'm saying.
Kevin's still in the,
If not, there's a lot of function rooms at
Maybe,
Henry Wilson.
can someone just email Jason and just say, is your library available 3 o'clock on? And then post it probably tomorrow. Well, actually, it should be, because I think we scheduled the athletic committee meeting for here. So it should be wide open.
Can you
Oh.
do 2 in 1?
Thursday. Oh,
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
Sorry.
Because you do only have a 2-day work week next week.
right.
They get Wednesday. They get,
Al Colburn
Al
Day.
Colburn Day.
That's what he claims.
I know. Al Colburn
Claims
Day.
that he fought
Only
for
a
that.
few of us would know what that means.
Yeah.
I actually have that day
Reschedule
off
our
too.
meeting.
So other than starting delving into these line by line, are we gonna just kind of move on and?
I think so, unless you have, does anybody have any, at first glance, any one
I think I
that might
caused enough
stick out?
trouble tonight.
Nah, you didn't.
Someone's gonna ask.
I was just gonna say, somebody's gotta do it.
No, I've got some stuff already, but I'd rather ask it when
Right.
we're in the workshop.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, let's all hear the same thing.
Yeah. Good stuff. Back to public participation. Don't all jump at once,
All those people that came in.
right? So our next regular meeting,
Oh,
yes,
I just wanted to say that the Gaga Ball pit was installed on Tuesday.
heard
I
about
saw that
this
tonight.
today.
Yeah,
yay.
Kids were out there using it after school.
yeah, I think it's fair to say it's been quite a hit at recess.
nice.
A lot of kids around, so.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you for the support on that.
I was
Sweet.
like, wow, that happened so
I know, I'll have to
quick.
get up there and see it, because
Yeah.
I still,
Went on
Nick and Chuck, we
vacation,
got it
I
up
came
at the
back
end of
and it
the
was like, yeah, when I was picking them up today, I saw that.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
So our next regular meeting will be Monday, November 20th. We will be having our workshop on Thursday. We have some manifests to sign, and I will make a motion to go into non-public session 1 under RSA 91A32 ABC, nominations and resignations.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.